We have Dr. Banerjee with us today, and we are lucky to have him. Dr. Banerjee is epidemiologist with he's young, 70 years with contribution to medicine for this long life. And I'm so thankful that this is a man which all of us should really think that he spent his life spreading epidemiology. Epidemiology is the core of medicine. Without epidemiology, you cannot have medicine. He is presently the professor emeritus of epidemiology at the D.Y. Patil Medical College Hospital and Research Center. He is also in Pune, Maharashtra. He is also the editor of their medical journal. It's a very good medical journal that is also in Scopus. So in the future, when you are planning to be a researcher and write articles, he will be your go person. He's also a professor, Department of Community Medicine at the Dr. D.Y. Patil Medical College in Pune. He has been a medical officer from October 1978 to September 2005 for 27 years in the Indian Armed Forces. He was both a medical officer and an epidemiologist. What a glowing career. Before that, he was also an associate professor in community medicine. Dr. Banerjee, I hand it over to you. Welcome today morning or evening for being with us. The floor is all yours.
Thank you, Dr. Indranil, for that kind introduction. And it's a pleasure to interact on this great platform. And I am thankful to American Academy of Yoga in Medical Sciences. And I must confess that I am a simple epidemiologist who can just count up to 100. And that is all that is required. So I am a dry epidemiologist. I don't, of course, I do have a lot of respect for yoga and I envy them. And I do know that physical activity is an important part of yoga and also meditation and the clean mind. And the clean mind means ethics. As Dr. Indranil mentioned, Vivekananda, we should have the highest ethical values in research. And it's a yogic way of life is also truthfulness and integrity. And today I am going to discuss a very important topic, which is contaminating this academic environment. It is contaminating the ethics in research. It is contaminating the ethics in publication, and we had a very glorious past. The Susutra and Charaka, they were way ahead of their time, thousands of years ahead of their times. And we have to carry forward their legacy by honest research. Unfortunately, I have first-hand experience as editor. Sometimes I find unethical practices. Sometimes I find frank falsification of data. Sometimes I find pressure on me also to deviate from ethical values. And there is another rat race which has come because of the rankings and metrics. It is not only at the individual level, it is at the institutional level also. The institutional are pushing the faculty, young authors, right from day one to do research. I mean, they are by hook or crook. So this is something which is very, very disturbing. Another thing is the reduced funding by government agencies and institutions, and for the past 3 decades, the research are increasingly being funded by pharmaceutical industries, and they have their own conflicts of interest. And they act as predators to the faculty and academicians who are desperate for research. Most of them may not be having the aptitude. So it's very concerning. So I'll be discussing on these topics today, and I will try to say how a young, in the end, I would like to conclude how a young researcher can remain ethical in this polluted atmosphere of academic atmosphere and how to retain integrity. So I would like to share a little presentation I have made. So I'd like to share the slide, and I'll just go through my presentation, and is it visible? I wanted to
Yeah,
do
yeah,
slide
it's
shares.
visible.
Slideshow. Why I'm not able to do slideshow?
If you can come down on your left hand side or on your right hand side, you'll see. No, go the other side. Yeah, go slow. Go no, completely other side. You're right. Just go down. Yeah, go down that same line. Just go down more. Yeah, just
Next,
next one,
next, next.
next one. No, no, other side. Yes,
Yes, that.
click on that. No, no,
Before
no,
that,
no. Before that. Yes, click on that, please. Doesn't matter. Just go and click on that. That should open up your slide. Or you can close that. Yeah.
I have
no, so you need to
this
click OK.
Next one, next one.
this
Yes, click
one.
on that. Oh, I think this is window is open. So let close this window. And it should, yeah. Now go and open up that. Go to the same place again.
F5
Next
used
one.
to give the
Yes.
this is the one. Yeah,
Okay.
I got it
Okay.
now. So this is the title as impact of publication pressures on scientific integrity, and I have borrowed this title, the subtitle from the Gursaran Das book, The Difficulty of Being Good. So this is about ethics, and he has given examples from the Mahabharata and other Indian texts in the current ethical dilemma. And unfortunately, this ethical dilemma is also permeated into the academic and scientific environment. So it's a real dharam sankat for young researchers, for middle level researchers. So this would be the scope of the session, how the pressure to publish is polluting the holy academic environment. Because for tenure and promotion, career interests, which are based on metrics, which depend on your publications and publications in high impact journal. Then, as I said, the pharmaceutical industry is increasingly influencing research. It is doing political lobbying, and so it lot of these issues are important issues, and which are all leading to questionable publication practices and outright fraud, including paper mills. Some institutions just make large number of students sit and write anything rubbish. Nowadays, the other challenges are coming like Chat GPT and AI. Fake papers are being published. Most of them, they did experiment also. They sent number of AI generated papers and it got published in fairly good journals a few time back. So this is how the atmosphere is getting polluted. And what is the implications for society? This can harm humanity because it can mislead evidence, it can mislead treatment, and subsequently it can give rise to loss of trust at the societal level. Then it can also, young careerists may think that initial fame they get the metrics, they get the tenure, but in the long run, it catches up. Now everything is in the public domain, it catches up, it leads to retraction, it may lead to disciplinary action, it may lead to even loss of license in extreme cases. So one has to be very careful, and lastly, I will be discussing on how to survive in a polluted academic environment, the difficulty of being good, and I will draw some lessons from the Sunday gentleman. I will explain what I mean by Sunday gentleman and lessons from the holy Ganges, Ram Teri Ganga Maili. So this Ganges is also facing pollution like we are facing, and I'll try to draw the parallels and how the Ganges is self-correcting itself and how the researchers can self-correct themselves. So the new slogan is impact of Paris. Earlier it was publish or perish. Now they want you to publish, most of the institutions, they want you to publish in impact journal with high impact factor and gaming the metrics and Goodhart's law. So this has led to this rat race in academia is pushing the envelope from publish or perish to impact or perish. This is driving a number of unethical practices such as data fabrication, falsification, plagiarism, salami publication, that is cutting one publication into a number of small publications, gift authorship, ghost authorship. Gift authorship is person who has not worked. He may be a senior or you may just want to please him. You just write his name as an author. Then ghost authorship, somebody else is writing for you and you are getting a authorship and the person who is writing his name does not feature. Paper mills, as I said, the people write, chat GPT, AI, they can be outsourced also. Nowadays, they will contact a researcher, faculty, they are desperate. They will say, okay, we will just give some data or we will give you data, we will publish. So all this type of unethical practices are very prevalent. Paid authorship. Paid authorship means there are separate rates for first author, second author, third author. There are higher rates for accepted paper. So all these rackets are going on. Fake reviews. There are peer reviewers who are fake. Sometimes authors have fake reviewed their own paper by hacking the website of the journal. Self citations, another questionable practice. Number of nowadays, of course, journal discouraged, but there are citation harvesting or citation rings. You scratch my back, I scratch your back. That I will cite your paper, you cite my paper, and there are a group of journals who keep citing each other. They are citation rings. In fact, nowadays some editors insist that I'll take your paper, but you cite from our journal. So these are questionable practices. This may not be outright unethical, but these are questionable. It vitiates the robustness of science. It vitiates the unbiased, objective science. Then there are predatory journals. Journals who know that you are desperate and you pay them, they will do the peer review in 2 days or 3 days or 1 week, and they will publish it. So these are predatory journals which will fool the authors, and some of the authors may be knowing they are predatory, but from desperation they may publish in these journals. Then fake imposter journals. There are some journals which will just copy the website of reputed journals and make fake websites, like they are scams, internet scams. And gaming the metrics, a Goodhart's law, that is your self citation or increasing just by quantity. You want to publish maximum numbers which have no quality. So, and you get number of publication increases, these are the metrics. Number of citation increases by citation, these are the metrics. So you are giving the metrics. So this is what Goodhart's law states, that you have made this as a H index, I-10 index, citation index, and most of the institutional rankings, college rankings, are based on number of publication on metrics. So as soon as an indicator is introduced as a measure of output, you are assessing the quality of a faculty or a quality of institution by these metrics. Gaming starts. Gaming the metrics means they will do anything to get the number of publications, irrespective of the quality, irrespective of the genuineness, and it ceases to be a valid indicator. So it doesn't, the worth of a teacher is just by papers, and that person may be just writing papers, not doing teaching or the other. So this is going extreme way, which is not good for genuine academy. And in this overload, in this clutter, genuine research also may get buried. So this is another harm, which is societal harm. We see even in schools and colleges, people with very high marks in school or colleges, most graduates, even with good scores, are unemployable. This has been published in Economic Times. So, because everybody gets 90%, 95%, but that earlier used to be the worth of an individual. Now everybody gets 90% and they are unemployable. Similarly, everybody gets a very high publication numbers and metrics, but they may not be, that doesn't just the that's not valid indicator of the competence. So we are getting away from the real worth. And I think recently Harvard University itself withdrew from this ranking. So there are some universities which are becoming aware of this, but unfortunately, most of the universities, particularly the upcoming colleges and private institutions, they want the recognition so that they can advertise. So metrics or marks are losing their validity as measure of competence. Similarly, situation is prevailing in higher academia, where faculty and institutions are being appraised on peer-reviewed publication metrics. If it is done properly, if it is a genuine research, it is definitely, it's a measure of quality. But the atmosphere nowadays there's lack of integrity or lack of robustness in a hurried way. Impact factor. This is the most misused metric. The inventor of the impact factor, Eugene Garfield, had cautioned in 1953. It did not occur to me that the impact factor would one day become so controversial. Like nuclear energy, the impact factor is a mixed blessing. I expect it to be used constructively, while recognizing that in the wrong hands it might be abused. So these are the words of the inventor of the impact factor. Impact factor is meant for a journal. It is calculated in last 3 years how many papers have been published and how many papers have been cited. So they calculate the citability of each paper. So it is not to assess the competence of a faculty. It's not for appraisal of a faculty. It is only for judging a journal for librarians. But nowadays, every institution wants this faculty to publish in a high impact factor journal. It is good to publish in a high impact factor journal, but it takes a lot of time and it's a long process. And so, to publish fast, they do this cutting corners. This cutting corners is affecting research. So, this impact factor is being misused. Similarly, the RT-PCR. I just came to my mind that similarly, the inventor of the RT-PCR, Kerry Mullis, who received the Nobel Prize, he invented PCR. He said that this is for research purpose only and not for medical. And 80% false positive was reported from China in March 2020. This is reported in British Medical Journal. I was very surprised. I used to hear this and I thought this may be just one of those conspiracy theories. So I have given the reference. So even the BMJ has reported that this RT-PCR was not to be used for diagnostics. Now we are over-diagnosing it perhaps, or even healthy people are being labeled. So this is just a aside. And this is the what's happening, the pressure to publish narrative, and how this is the whole type of web excessive growing pressure to publish, cultural emphasis. The academic culture is becoming just by numbers, use of metrics, policies, incentives. People are getting money. I know people, the faculty are there who are visiting faculty and they are taken as on their publication. They are affiliated to a university. They may not be working in a university, but they are affiliated, and there are many such roving faculties who come for with the number of publications. And there are many, the first time a person may be a very good teacher, but when he goes and meets the college authorities, they will just see how many publications he have got, and they will take the person with the highest publication irrespective of the his teaching ability. A genuine teacher may be not get the job, but the person with higher publication is something like a dowry system कि कितना dowry दे सकते हो तो हम वहीं पे so this has become an academic dowry or publication which may have no worth otherwise. So a hardworking person will not have time for public so many publications. Of course, you have to publish what you see a case is genuine publication, but as I said, it takes time. A genuine researcher will publish 3 years for one good paper, and other person will publish 30 papers in that time, which will have no worth. So, and if you don't see you just see the numbers. So this matrix is causing and the pressure, overemphasis on quantity and number of papers, mismeasurement of quality. That journal impact factor is a mismeasurement, citations, and altmetrics. So these are universally accepted as a measure of quality. How many? But as I said, these are can be gamed by cutting corners to publish an impact factor journal and by making citation rings. So these are other things, salami sizing, trivial fragmented findings. You will just send this cutting the big one paper into many. Then sloppiness means if you do a hurried work, then duplicate publication and plagiarism. Same author is publishing the same thing again, and plagiarism. Exaggerated claims. You will just tweak the p-value, or out of context, post hoc hypothesis you may take out. You are supposed to state the hypothesis in advance because they are by chance. What if you do 20 tests, one test will come by chance, it will come significant. Take that out of context and you can build a paper on it, and it will be exaggerated claim which would be misleading. So these are some of the biased findings and fabricated. These are the extreme forms of fabricated and falsified data. During the pandemic, even the Lancet was published a paper which was on fabricated data from Sergi Spear on hydroxychloroquine or something, I think. So no journal is, all journals are vulnerable. And higher the impact factor, the more the cheating goes on. Can we trust the science today? So I will just give some opinion of some leading editors. When there is today we need, as Professor Indranil said, today we need the maximum research because of the increasing growth of technology. We need an information overload. We require robust science. And unfortunately, this is the time when the quantity is given precedence over quality, undermining trust in science. And a genuine research paper may get buried. When we need rigor and integrity, various conflicts of interest have emerged. The inherent nature of science is such that it progresses incrementally at the frontiers of research, leaving a window of uncertainty which is wide initially, and by repeated rigorous findings, the uncertainty window becomes narrower and narrower, and with accumulating acid. So it's a very slow process. So this window and uncertainty has to take time. It's an incubation period. Other researchers work. Now there is a mad rush. In this window, everybody wants to get in and they come up with fantastic ideas and they will just hit the journal and then they will go to the press and then they will claim. And the people get misled. And the genuine scientist, poor person is working slowly and he will get ignored. So this science is messy and this window of uncertainty gets exploited. Generating real world evidence can be messy, contrary to public perception. And people will think यार ये scientist है आज इसने आ गया newspaper में आ गया. In the interim, the wide window of uncertainty offers opportunities to many stakeholders to jump in the fray and take advantage of the void. Lobbying and social marketing tend to take place in place of slow, consistent research generating sound evidence. So it has become something like test match से अभी वनडे आ गया, वनडे से अभी T20 आ गया. So अभी जैसे and now we don't know, the scientists don't know how to do good research because they are like the cricketers don't know how to play cricket now. They know how to play only T20. The scientists only make, they can't do hard work. अभी T20 के बाद टेस्ट मैच we saw what happened, the disaster against New Zealand. So this is what's happening in science also. The scientific integrity, even the scientific competence is going down. The patience is going down. Then unhealthy cutthroat competition is corrupting the science. With unhealthy cutthroat competition among academics, career scientists, and pharmaceutical industries, hard evidence may be difficult to come by. Academic faculty in universities and career scientists are under increasing pressure to procure grants, undertake research, or publish or perish. Most doctors have little aptitude. You know, doctors are busy people, except a few, and write successful research proposal for grants or write papers for, but they have to for tenure and promotion. There are some doctors who are very good researchers, so give them everything. Instead of pushing everyone, other person may be a good teacher, a good clinician, something. But not one size doesn't fit all. But that is being overlooked now. Everybody has to publish. Right now, they are thinking of making first year medical students also publish. What will they publish? I don't know. The dynamics lead to unsound research. Pushing academics to research amounts to conflicts of interest. The unwilling horse has to drink water. You see, conflict of interest does not mean only monetary conflict. You see, when you ask a patient to enroll in a trial, you have to take consent. If the patient is unwilling, it would be unethical to make him. Here, the main investigator is forced to do research. He doesn't want to do research, but he has to. So when he is not having autonomy, how do you expect him to respect the autonomy of his patients? So it has a trickle down effect. Research may be carried out in desperation for survival as well as to improve institutional rankings. These non-financial conflicts of interest also lead to distortion of research. And science and academia gets polluted. Serious researchers know the difficulties of publishing in good journals. Desperados may tend to cut corners and indulge in fraudulent publication practices to achieve this, contaminating the body of evidence. A paper in the prestigious journal Nature reported that data manipulation common among researchers, with 2% of researchers admitting to have falsified results. And 2% is not a small figure, because thousands of papers are published every day. If you calculate 2%, maybe there may be 1,000 false papers moving around, and sometimes it may be an important topic and doctors may be misled, patient may be misled. So 2% of falsified and 14%, 34%. This, you see this figure, 34% admitted to other questionable research practices. Other questionable means small deviation from integrity will add up. So 34%. So these are not small figures, and these they are admitting. Many may not admit also. Age of industrial pollution. We have come to the big pharma. The rivers are getting polluted by industries and or medical academia, and medical environment is getting polluted by pharma industry. The pharmaceutical industry over the past 3 or 4 decades has come to wield tremendous influence on the way evidence is generated. Presently, they are the major sponsors of clinical research. Medical research has become big business. As on today, almost 70 to 80% research is sponsored by pharma. The industry cannot afford to wait for uncertainties. They can't wait for a test match. They want a T20 to resolve. Efforts in business interests have to be directed to influence the direction of the research also. They control the direction of the research. The stakes are very high. In this environment, the traditional values of patience, hard work, and integrity in scientific research are being abandoned. They give grants to academicians. They write papers for academicians. They write papers for busy professors. They give them other perks. So this is, and if the that person doesn't play ball, they won't give him grant next time. So, and that person is also desperate to retain his tenure or her tenure and get promotion. So they just compromise. They may not be outrightly dishonest, but this conflict of interest introduces sort of a bias, which at so these are some of the issues. Then seduction of academia, sleeping with the enemy. When the funding and influence in the industry were modest, academic faculty in universities continued to play key roles in design, conduct, analysis, and final publication of medical research. This was ideal for science but not for business. Science walks slowly, business walks very fast, runs rather. So there is competition. The science is laid back. Or great scientists like Susutra, Charak, they had their own autonomy. They years and thousands of years they took to crystallize, and there's a now we have to move forward. But here, doing that type of serious research, we have to create that atmosphere first. Academics got seduced by industry funding and afraid that if they did not compromise, the funding will go to others. This brought about the nemesis of ethics. Information war. Not only they are controlling the research, they are controlling the journals also. Medical top journals also they are controlling, including Lancet, even including Nature also. The influence of drug companies extends to medical journals as well. Journals benefit from publishing large industry-sponsored studies which increase the value of the journals and also bring in revenue by sale of reprints to the drug companies which are used as marketing tools. This amount can reach $1 billion from a single article. So you can see the amount of stakes involved. So journals also come under pressure. Wake up call by journal editors. Almost 2 decades ago, top editors of top journals like New England Journal of Medicine, BMJ, Lancet, and others, JAMA, they wrote, editors of leading journals wrote an editorial uh, published an editorial narrating how the power of clinical trials was being misused by imposing draconian restrictions on academia researchers to serve the interest of the industry sponsors. This made a mockery of clinical research. Instead of testing hypotheses, as is the practice for advancing science, clinical trials corporate are performed to facilitate regulatory approval of a drug or device. Already the hypothesis is formed and then all things are pushed so that it supports that hypothesis. So this editorial is available. I'll give the reference, and this has been written by top editors of journals. So this is actually, it is not pharma, it is actually the pressure on the academics. And the pharma is exploiting that pressure. So that's connection I wanted to bring. The topic is how the pressure to publish is affecting integrity. It is making the vulnerable. All the researchers are vulnerable because they have to survive. It's very difficult. And I suppose in USA it may be more difficult. They have to get grant to survive the faculty. Strong statement. Then some of the editors, well-known editors, I may be knowing most of the name, they gave strong statements. The editor of the Lancet, Richard Horton, stated that medical journals have become the information laundering operations for the pharmaceutical industry. Richard Horton. Then Marcia Angel, very well-known editor of New England Journal of, former editor of New England Journal of Medicine, criticized the industry for becoming a marketing machine and running roughshod any institutions coming in its way. So you can imagine how strong the industry has become. Forget about individual doctors or individual academicians. They can roughshod institutions. If Then Richard Smith, former editor of British Medical Journal, stated that medical journals are an extension of the marketing arm of pharmaceutical companies. So this is how strong they are. And the journals and the publishers also wield these powers. And if you remember a few years back, 5, 6 years back, Jeffrey Beall of American university. He was a librarian. He brought out the predatory journal, list of predatory journals. And there was a lot of pressure on him from his institution also. Ultimately, he had to retire from his job because I was in constant touch with him. So this is the amount of pressure the medical journals who are exposed, they bring through the institutions. And that as an honest person, he left because he could afford to leave perhaps. And everybody may not be in that position. So this is the unfortunate part. Conflict of interest is more in developing countries, in the global south. The conflicts of interest are more deeply rooted in poorer countries where the state budget for research and development is severely limited. And even government research organizations in these countries depend heavily on memorandum of understanding which facilitate funding by private players. So once the government research organizations also depend on funding by pharma, where there is there is a conflict of interest. There is no robust research. There are many examples I can give, but that is not the topic today. What needs to be done to stem the rot? Given the free fall of robust medical research over the past decade, what needs to be done at institutional and individual level? Restoring research autonomy of academic institutions and universities can be a good beginning. It's only not the judiciary which should be here, it is the academics and the professors and the scientists and the doctors who should have autonomy. But they don't have at present because of this requirement pressure to publish. For this, the rat race in academia to secure grants and publish or perish culture shall cease, as this make the faculty vulnerable from predators from the pharmaceutical industry. Government should sponsor medical research with public funds. The benefits of rigorous research would benefit the public. And this publication should stop being a metrics for promotion. They should be this publication should be done. If a person has done research, then he or she has to publish. That's good enough. But everybody should not be forced. I had written some time back on this demonetization of publications. This has become like a currency in the bank. How it is your bank balance? Nobody reads your papers, but it is the money which is there. How many publications you have got? You may not spend the money, but you are judged by that. So this publication has become like that. I had said that we should go for demonetization of the publications as a currency of competence or what practicing doctors and lay person do. Okay, all doctors are not doing research, all doctors are not in academia. I am practicing clinicians. What I should do in this atmosphere? Doctors and others who read the published paper. Now many people read the published paper, not only doctors, practicing physicians for their patients, they get the guidance. Advocates read, the journalists read, the lay person reads, the social activists read. So everybody reads, even a lay person reads. Should meticulously study the conflicts of interest statement and master at least working knowledge of how to appraise the research papers instead of falling prey to propaganda and social marketing of drugs, vaccines, and medical devices. Now, drugs, vaccines, and medical devices and medical interventions are promoted by film stars, which was earlier they were promoting Coca-Cola. So this is not science. This is social marketing. So this is, and then now there are celebrity doctors who come and promote without doing the genuine research, neither getting up to date on serious research. They are just become parrots. They just narrate the script on TV given by the pharma industry. They have no time for that. So this is totally, they are influenced by the pharma industry. They don't have a script of their own because they can't do the research, neither can they appraise the research. Most of the papers, they also maybe gift authorship. Most of the farmers, all pharma companies have number of writers who can do the writing and research. Only then we can trust the science. We can only trust the science once it is free from conflicts of interest. One, the people are aware to appraise the conflicts of interest and accordingly. And now, for a personal takeaway for junior doctors or junior scientists, academics, middle level, those who can't leave their job. So, how junior and mid level scientists can preserve ethics in this polluted environment? I personally give this advice to people who come to me, young people who come to me as an editor. Many are desperate कि sir कैसे भी publish कर दो. I said, नहीं, this is not the way. कैसे भी करने से आज नहीं तो कल आपका पेपर रिट्रैक्ट होगा जब तक आई डोंट गेट अ प्रॉपर पीयर रिव्यू आई गेट अ प्रॉपर इनपुट्स आई विल नॉट पब्लिश नॉट गुड फॉर द जर्नल नॉट गुड फॉर यू इन द लॉन्ग रन and how to. So, dilemma for a young faculty in meeting the unrealistic public requirements. I mean, basically, the higher bodies, accrediting bodies have to change the policy, but it will take time. And perhaps they are also part of this because these big publishing houses are promoting this metrics through these academic institutions, through these universities. So they are all in the, everybody has a skin in the game, perhaps. I don't know, or they don't understand also, perhaps. Both could be possible. So, but the junior person has to survive. So without sacrificing one's integrity, how to do this? So I have give two examples to them. One is Sunday Gentleman, other is the, as I said, the Ram Teri Ganga Maili. So this is first I will just narrate what is the Sunday Gentleman. A cue is offered from the life and times of late best-selling author Irving Wallace. I don't know, many of the present generation may not know, but old time Irving Wallace was a very good author who used to write good biographies also. He has written the biography of Sigmund Freud. He has written biography of this painters and other things, Michelangelo. So Irving Wallace was a very great author. So he has written one book, The Sunday Gentleman. So how he has written, he has given very interesting. For 20 years, he struggled as a freelance writer for various magazines. He used to work for magazines. During this period, he had to compromise his writings to suit the target audience and suit the editors. He could not write on his own. This was compulsion to enable him to retain his job. Exactly now, the all researchers and academia in this predicament, they have to write whether they like it or not. He toiled 6 days a week to avoid bankruptcy. However, to preserve his creativity and sanity, he kept Sundays to himself to write as he pleased, a free man for his own pleasure and satisfaction. His genuine writings on these Sundays over a period of 20 years were compiled as a collection of essays with the title The Sunday Gentleman. In the first chapter of the book, he narrates why he chose the title. So this is why reason he gave. It's a tradition. It was a tradition in England in the 17th century that those who owned money, they had to go to prison if they are caught by the money lenders, and if they don't. But however, if they are moving around in a Sunday, nobody could arrest them because Sunday is a Lord's Day or Sabbath in Christianity. So they could move freely and moneylender could not approach them. No business can. So these Sunday gentlemen used to come, go underground 6 days at a week, and then they used to surface on Sunday as a free person to do as they wish. And from Monday again, they will go underground. So so this is, he says, the Irving Wallace used to do this in his writing. 6 days he would write for the editor and the audience, and one day he would write for himself. So I tell the authors who come to me, I said, you are acha kaam hai, jo good work you do on a Sunday, and don't publish this in fast track mode or a pretty journal. Keep this for good journals. So be a Sunday gentleman one day at a time. However, the Sunday Gentleman, Wallace drew parallel to his predicament of 20 years as a freelance writer with 17th century England. During this period, he wrote 6 days a week, and one day, 7 day, he wrote for himself. Over the years, however, Sundays were not enough. And Wallace, as being a gentleman, only once a week pricked his conscience. After some time, he said, I should be honest every day. And when he became richer, his books became bestsellers. He became a Sunday, all 7 days, he became a Sunday gentleman. So he write as he pleased. So he gave up his job and started writing books and enjoyed free life all 7 days a week. I said, your time will come. He took 20 years, 30 years to become a free man. So you can also do it. I am a free man now. Now I have retired. I am just a visiting emeritus, so I can say anything, I can write anything. So you have to, but you have to preserve that ethics, at least some portion of ethics in some part of your soul. Don't sell your soul completely. I mean, you have to be pragmatic also. Things are bad in the academic year. So I said, ki, okay, I will publish, chalo, letter to editor, ek chap do, chalo. Don't publish very false data. That may harm people. Publish something innocuous just to humor the year, but don't make it a habit of publishing only those things. Then you will lose your reputation in the long run. So just publish the minimum requirement to retain your job, and don't make it a habit. And serious work every Sunday, you may do it privately, but every Sunday you can keep it for a year. And that is one example from the Sunday Gentleman. Other is the example from the Ganges. My mother used to tell me this when I, from childhood, I heard this. My mother was brought up by a grandfather, by her grandfather in Varanasi and Agra, who was the first chemical examiner of independent in India, D.N. Chatterjee. He was a chemical examiner and he did a lot of research with the Ganges in Varanasi. He would take the water from the most polluted and try to do chemical, and he will find that water is not having much indication of pollution. So my mother used to tell me that this is such a holy river. I never used to believe her. I was an agnostic from young age. I said, this is all bunkum. So I never believed her. Then in FMC, I think when I was in DY Patil only, one FMC virologist came to give a guest lecture. He brought out that Ganges, they have found a lot of bacteriophages, the viruses which kills the pathogens. The high amount of bacteriophages in Ganges, and the water gets purified, self-purification by this bacteriophages, which may have potential for replacing antibiotic in future. During the break, I went and hugged him. I said, my mother is not alive, but I, all these years, I thought that you remind me of my mother. He got worried. I said, no, it is like that. Ki I never believed her, but now, then I did my own research. So that Ganga, lot of government is making lot of regulation to clean the Ganga. And of course, academic environment, the government is making lot of regulation to increase the publication pressure. So it is just the opposite way. But even the Ganga is getting so polluted that it's not able to catch up with the pollution. So then it has been discovered, there is a paper 2023 only, a diverse range of bacteriophages have been identified in the water of Ganges, which acts as a repository to regulate these pathogenic bacteria, and this is nature's way of self-regulation to maintain the purity of the Ganges. So this is nature's way of self-regulation. I think human being also can learn from this. Every one of us, however he may have lost his integrity or become unethical due to compulsion, if you retain one part of it which can enlarge later, where you have got less compulsion. So that is the conclusion, is that ethics and purity cannot be imposed by rules and regulation, but have to come from inner core, be it the Ganges or humans. So we should not despair as long as we retain even a bit of this inner uncontaminated core, which has the potential to emerge in full glory in due course of time. So it's a learning experience, it's a spiritual experience, one can almost say. And as I said, every sinner has a future and every saint has a past. So one should see the circumstances under which the person under pressure has to retain, he has to feed his family or other things. So these are some of the, yeah, and I will just go rapidly through the references. I'll be sharing this PowerPoint. So these references are very good. This metrics, the first reference is on the metrics. Second reference on the that how it is misleading, the marks in school colleges do not indicate the competence. And this is the Garfield, the agony and extensive history of impact factor. So he has written a full year on impact factor. The limit is how it is being misused. And nobody is listening to it, unfortunately. Even now, the universities only go by. Then rollout of SARS-CoV antibody testing, the BMJ, as I said, RT-PCR. Then this is a very good book. This is almost a 300-page book on the title is this gaming the metrics, misconduct and manipulations in academic research. This is a full book. I have got this book. So this is a lot of things. I mean, the people have become very enterprising. Those who game the metrics and those who, so the you require a lot of research to catch them. Also, it's almost like a crime branch. Why most published papers are false. That is, of course, Ioannidis had written this paper. It may be due to many factors. This unethical is one part of it. It may be due to lack of research methodology awareness or confounding so many things. So one should not and cherry picking research and promoting it also is unethical. Scientists behaving badly. Nature. This is the Nature article on so many scientists have admitted to indulge in. Then Abramson. This book is a very good book. Abramson J is an American who has written the commercial takeover of medical knowledge. Overdosed America. This is a bestseller in the USA. Overdosed America. How the gradually the pharma industry is influencing publications. It is influencing research. And the pressure to publish is coming from academic institutions and the accrediting bodies. So one sometimes suspects whether they are also got a skin in the game. It may be a major, I mean, something which you can just contemplate. So medical journals and pharmaceutical industries, as I said, this Richard Smith had said, uneasy bedfellows. I said sleeping with the enemy. He has used the word uneasy. Then this is sponsorship, authorship, accountability. This is also where the medical journals are an extension arm of the pharma industry. Richard Smith, his statement. Then this is a David of this is the editors who wrote about the then the Sunday Gentleman, second last year Sunday Gentleman, and last reference about the bacteriophage in the Ganges. So I think that's all. I think I have finished. Thank you everyone for a patient listening. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much, sir, for that wonderful lecture. It was always pleasure to listening to you and to know what Dr. Banerjee carries as a legacy. You need to read his editorials in D.Y. Patil Medical Journal. We are a fan of reading. He's a part of our integrative medicine group, and we will just wait when the next editorial will be coming in D.Y. Patil's journal and his book on COVID, The Third Eye, another eye opener for how epidemiology, like Basu sir also told during his opening remarks, epidemiology is the backbone of medical science. And how an unbiased researcher he is, an inspiration for a lot of youngsters. And you should read his editorials all out there, including all of us, in order to know what is research and what not is research. And we at Indian Academy for Yoga and Medicine, sorry, American Academy for Yoga and Medicine, we thought that this should be the starting point of our webinar because we clearly give a statement to the researchers and young researchers or aspiring researchers how to do research and what should be the future of researchers. We do not want to bombard with too many publications, but those publications out there should be very much regarded with quality and in the righteous way. We should earn that publication. So there are a couple of questions from the people. So one is about, can you give an example for salami publications? Because many are new to research, so example would be appreciated.
Salami publication is a European salami is a long, I think, piece of meat, and you cut it in number of slices. So it is a paper you have done a research. That research could be described in one paper. Instead of that, you are just doing one research and you are making five papers or three papers or two papers out of it instead of one paper. One part of research, one part of research. So that is you are inflating your number of publication, inflating your metrics. So that is salami publication. Of course, there are ways to judge it also. Sometimes it may be justified if the work is very long, but that is the merit of the case. But deliberately doing it without any indication for it, that is salami publication.
Yes. Thank you, sir. There is one more question, although you covered it, I am just asking. How a research scholar can focus on his pure research intention rather than influencing by rat race in publishing. The very purpose of research just fade away in this race, put a lot of pressure. Please give a way to serve
So,
better.
if you are honest, no, this is the book. In this book only there is one sentence by Ivan Orinsky. He is the co-editor of Retraction Watch. That is another thing you want everybody should subscribe to. Research Retraction Watch. You just Google search Retraction Watch and subscribe to it. You will get his updates on the number of papers which are retracted every week, and even Nobel Prize winners' papers get retracted. So in this, there is one sentence: the most common outcome of unethical practice is a successful career. So the reverse is like if you are very honest, you will be left behind. So you have to choose between your ethics and your career. Sometimes you have to take a balance. So as I said, that you should know yourself that this is honest research. Only the researcher himself or herself knows that he is cutting corners. I mean, I remember just a few days back only I read they were making a big statue. One of the senior person was there, the sculptor, and they were making a statue of Ganesha, and there was a slight defect in the yeah, and he went to great pains to isko correct karna, to we should correct the defect. So the young person said, ki, yaar, it is that statue is very tall and that will be hundred of feet away. Who will know that there is a slight defect? Then he says, you and I will know. So that is enough. So yeah, only the it is a self-regulation like the Ganges or the Sunday gentleman. And as I said, it can be very difficult. It is not easy. So at least some portion you should retain, and when you gain more autonomy, it will come with your competence. You make your overall reputation as a teacher, as a serious scientist, even in small portions, people will take you seriously. And you may have to be work extra hard. You have to work extra hard to be a sincere person, and you will not get the rewards. Certainly not in the short term. And but that is the only way. Either you choose the hard way or you choose the easy way. It is your choice, and it's not going to be easy. But there you are. And that's why I said ki this pressure, as the title is very good, how the publication pressure is compromising the integrity. You are forced to be to survive. You are forced to it. I mean, this is a food for thought for the higher authorities, which should be. In fact, I have suggested many times, like even if you do a dissertation, if you do it, let it be a group work. Let it be five students do it. They do it for 2 years, 3 years. Then they go away. The other persons can carry on other group, and they can be assessed for the work they do. They need not complete it, or they need not find a positive result also. Even negative research has its value. You see, the Edison makes 1,000 words, then he got the one bulb which lit. So you have to, the serious research is, as I said, messy. So it's a, yeah, the other way around is say ki you be very careful that what you are doing fast, where you are cutting corners. You should not mislead the public, not mislead the medical community. Let it be a harmless research, like physical activity is good for health. That is harmless. So let it be that way. It cannot be that something misleading. So there are many ways, and there are many journals which accept any damn thing. So you know that this is my minimum requirement, so I do this, but the serious research, I should be honest, I do it slow. I mean, that's the way something balancing act.
Thank you very much, sir. And we all cherish the way you do your writing. Like when we were struggling hard to publish the unethical practices in COVID, your papers were just getting published left and right
Because I
because
have reached that Sunday gentleman stage, no? I
yes, sir, we can
I have
understand.
reached.
So there is one more interesting question. There are many papers being published in predatory journals, which are good papers, but being published in predatory journals. How to know whether they are good papers or not?
That for that you have to know the basics of research. I mean, simple basics like what is measure. I mean, research is not rocket. I mean, what research we do in medical research is not rocket science. There is rocket science. There is Einstein. There is what we do is empirical research. We just observe something. All of us are born as researchers as we do empirical research. A child sees the mother switch ऑन करता लाइट जलता है कॉज इफेक्ट हम भी देखता है दवाई दिया ठीक हो गया ऐसा बार बार देखता है वो रिसर्च हो गया so that is research. You don't have to. What was the question? I forgot. I mean, in
So
between.
he was telling like good papers because of ignorance
Huh.
they publish in
हाँ नहीं
predatory.
good papers you see what is the cause, what is the effect. You see what is the research question. When you judge, first thing is what is the research question. रिसर्च क्वेश्चन को फिर ब्रेक डाउन करो कि आउटकम क्या मेजर किया है और प्रिडिक्टर क्या किया ये को और बीच में अदर फैक्टर्स को कंसिडर किया कि नहीं कंफाउंडिंग फैक्टर्स कंसिडर किया कि नहीं ये किया कि नहीं ये सब तीन चार चीजें होती हैं and what was the unit of measurement and how they are measured. Suppose you are talking of yoga, how do you measure yoga? What type of yoga? Because yoga also, I know there are different schools. I myself, so which school of yoga, whether it is supervised or whether it is self-reported. So these are the measurements. Suppose you want to see the effect of yoga on, say, blood pressure. So you have to have two measures. One is the blood pressure, which is again what time of day you take blood pressure, sitting position, a position, calibration of instrument. So outcome you have to calibrate. Then you have to calibrate the yoga also. योगा के कितना मिनट है सुपरवाइज है कि नहीं है अलग अलग स्कूल्स है कि विच योगा दैट वे एंड देन व्हाट कैन बी द अदर कंफाउंडिंग फैक्टर बिकॉज अ पर्सन हु मस्ट बी डूइंग योगा ही मे बी मोर कॉन्शियस अबाउट हिज डाइट आल्सो और हर डाइट आल्सो मोर कॉन्शियस अबाउट ऑफ नेग्लेक्टिंग मतलब abstaining from alcohol also so those other factors can also break down the bp so you have to match for those confounders so ये सब कॉमन सेंस है आई मीन रिसर्च इज कॉमन सेंस है कि अगर आपने खाली योगा ये लिया, अदर फैक्टर्स नहीं लिया, तो अगर आप पेपर पढ़ते हो, इफ यू रीड द पेपर, यू सी
There
वेदर
are
दे
people from
हैव.
Tamil Nadu also, so we can keep it on English.
हाँ. सो दिस इज, आई सी थ्री थिंग्स आर देयर. एक तो सिलेक्शन बायस होता, कौन सा सैंपल लिया. अगर सब योगिक का ही सैंपल लिया तो दैट नहीं, वेदर यू हैव टू अप्लाई टारगेट ऑडियंस क्या, यू हैव टू अप्लाई सपोज टू द जनरल पॉपुलेशन, सो यू हैव टू टेक सैंपल फॉर द सिलेक्शन बायस. अदर इज द मेजरमेंट बायस, कि योगा कैसे मेजर किया, बीपी कैसे. और तीसरा होता है कंफाउंडिंग बायस, कि व्हाट कैन बी द अदर फैक्टर्स विच कैन डिस्टॉर्ट द रिजल्ट्स. Like you take the vaccinated people, unvaccinated people, you say the people who are vaccinated have got less infection. But the people who are vaccinated may be from a higher socioeconomic status. So their housing, their nutrition may be, their public transport में नहीं जाते होंगे. So all this must be preventing them from getting infection, not the vaccine. So you have to match for socioeconomic status and other factors. So three things only: selection, what is the sample, what is the measurement, and what are the confounding factors. तो इसमें अगर ये थोड़े दिन सीख लेना, तो at least you need not do research, but you can judge other person's research in your practice. You can rapidly do that.
Thank you, sir. I think that has answered the other two questions also, how to look the ethical paper for literature reviews. By learning the skill again and again, you will be able to identify that paper. And there is another question for us from AIYM. As a mid-level scientist from rural place, how and where can we get the guidance? So the guidance are from learning the research from the right people, reading good papers, good journals again and again will keep you. And AIYM is also coming up with a fellowship to help Indian doctors to empower yourself in research, where we'll be teaching the basics to the advanced part of research, which we'll be announcing shortly. And there is another one question, sir, for you. Are there ethics in research proposal writing?
Definitely, because in fact the proposal goes to the ethical committee. So you have to consider the likely ethical issues which can arise and what you have done to overcome that. So ethics always comes because all proposals are reviewed by the institutional ethical committee.
Thank you, sir. So that brings to the end of today's session. And like I enjoyed the talk. I hope most of my fellow colleagues might have enjoyed your talk. And it's an eye opener, sir, as always. As always say, it's a pleasure to listen to you and the examples from where you bring. And we always will try to become the gentleman, not just on the Sunday, but on every days, so that when we reach that autonomic stage, we can still be proud and become another Dr. Amitabh Banerjee who can speak from the heart.
Very
to the
kind, Pradeep.
Thank you
I'm a
very much, sir.
simple person who can count. And thank you, Dr. Indranil. Thank you, Pradeep. Thank you, everyone. It has been a very enjoyable to interact with you all. Thank you.
Before we
And a
depart, I
pleasure.
want to say that the next session of this webinar series will be on 16th, that's coming 16th of November, where we'll have another interesting